Hello, friends. Mark, Heath, Mike Bacon here with you to tackle a big problem. No, not Vladimir Putin. That's a bit outside of our pay grade, unfortunately. Today, Mike, we're here to tackle Town's big problem, which is the fact that strikers just can't score goals. I'll give you some stats that show they essentially can't hit a barn door with a banjo. Macaulay Bonne started the season like his shorts were on fire. Now he's scored 1 goal in 20. Hasn't scored since that win at Gillingham on January the 8th, that 4-0 win. James Norwood came back, resurgent Norwood back into the side. He's now not scored in 9 games. Again, his last goal was in that game at Gillingham on January 8th. And your boy Joe Pigott, someone we all thought would be Town's leading scorer at the start of the season, he's only got 3 goals in 25 games this season. He's not scored in 18 games. His last goal came October the 5th, Mike. So we know Town are still creating chances. There's still chances there. They missed a few on Saturday, Bonne and Norwood, the guilty parties, but they're not putting them away. So how do we tackle this problem, Mike? Coach of the Year 2009. You never mention it. But now I want your thoughts, please.
Well, it was a long time ago, Heathy. I must be honest, a long time ago, I was doing practice drills where I was setting them up and tearing them up for people to hit the back of the net. It's a worry, isn't it? It's suddenly come at the wrong time. I mean, I think that's the thing, come at the wrong time. McKenna has put faith in all these guys, given them all big opportunities, and no one's taken it. What do? I mean, goal scoring, you see, goal scoring is the number one art. That is why they go for big bucks. You know, that is why when people talk about strikers and why they go for so much money and stuff like that, it's because they influence the whole game. The whole game is all about goals. What do Ipswich Town do? Recently, obviously, McKenna's been switching about. He's been chopping and changing. He's been basically, I think he's just been looking. He's come in, hasn't he? And he's been looking at what's there. And he's not going to take what people are saying for what people are telling him. He's going to give everybody an opportunity. Caden Jackson took his opportunity, to be fair, but I suppose what would I do? I suppose I personally think you've got to start. He's got to decide to go with a striker or two and stop the formation perhaps now for the last 10, 12 games, and put faith in somebody. Who that is, very tricky to say. I mean, goodness me. You know, Macaulay Bonne's sort of the way he's sort of imploded as regards scoring goals is incredible. I mean, he was like a rat up a thing, wasn't he, at the start of the season as a pipe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he was extraordinary. But now it's just completely gone. And strikers, of course, are confidence creatures. I mean, it's complete confidence creatures. As soon as they score one, they'll score two. So, I mean, I think Norwood scored about 3 on the trot, didn't he, over Christmas? He suddenly just came in and went bang, bang, bang. But then he was left out, and then someone else has come in, and it's just very difficult right now. And it's a shame because we're not conceding any, but we ain't scoring any, which is the problem, of course.
So, as you mentioned there, McKenna has obviously been rotating that front three since he's come in. There are 4 main options, really, and there's a wild card, obviously, we'll talk about in due course, by the name of Tyree Simpson. But Macaulay Bonne was the nailed-on first name on the team sheet striker for pretty much the first half of this season. James Norwood's come back into it. Obviously, got Joe Pigott, as I say, really not done it since coming across in the summer. And you've also got Caden Jackson, who's come back into the frame. We talked earlier this year about the Bash brothers, Norwood and Bonne, playing together and having success. And as you say, with strikers being, by their very nature, confidence players, you would maybe argue that being rotated constantly is not best for that. So is it time for McKenna literally to just nail his colours to the mast and go, right, you are my striker, you are my strikers, and no matter what happens, I'm going to play you for the next 6 games, and we'll see where we are after that. Is that an approach you would take or think about taking?
It's an approach I think he could take. I don't think it's an approach he will take because I can't really see who's going to nail his colours to, because his problem is that no one's really grasped what he's been, the opportunity. There's no justification to suddenly say, I'm going to go with Bonne and Nord. And also he's not actually playing them side by side. He's playing one's more left, and I don't like Norwood on the left. I'd like him down the middle. You can't play Bonne and Norwood side by side, about a yard apart from each other. You could, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. Should he do that? Was the question. I just don't know. I mean, up to now, although Town are not scoring goals, they're not losing games either. And who would you put? Who would you go for? I mean, you read out them stats, appalling stats, I might add. You read out at the beginning as goal strikers.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely appalling. I mean, if it was, who would you go with? I mean, that's the big question. You could go with the Bash brothers, of course you could. Say it's all right, Bodnor, that's it. Next 6 games. Is that fair on Jackson to suddenly just say, well, look, doesn't look like you're going to be in the picture? He might have to do that. I don't think he will. He might have to, but the thing about McKenna is the good thing about McKenna I've seen is that he'll go for it. Okay, he isn't scared to chuck 28 strikers on the pitch at once and have no defenders. That's great. Not literally, of course, but he's quite prepared to go for it. I can't answer. It's a difficult question for me to answer. I should be answering your question, but I can't because I can't really see my head around it.
Well, while you think about it, Mike, we're going to come to we'll finish with a conclusion as to how we approach it. Let's talk about the wild card options because there are a couple. One is obviously Tyrese Simpson, a striker who did very well on loan in League Two with Swindon first half of the season, controversially recalled in a contract dispute and is now scoring goals for fun, as you say, in the under 23. He's got 2 yesterday. He's a big, powerful striker. Clearly can do it at League Two level. Could he do it at League One? Very much a wild card option. Should he be making benches? You could argue maybe he should with his form so far. And the other one is maybe someone who is generally in the team and has got goals this season is Connor Chaplin, who is by trade has been a striker. Whether or not you'd see him playing as the striker in this side, I don't know. But what would you say first of all about Tyrese Simpson?
Well, I saw Tyrese Simpson. I played in a league match. It was on TV. I think it was against Forest Green, I think, for Swindon. Very impressed. In fact, I saw him as a youngster, 16, 17-year-old Ipswich as well when he was in the under-18s. A big, strong lad. I have not got my head round, and I'm not going to pretend to understand why you would bring a lad back who was playing regular football in League Two and doing very well. Of course, that's Ipswich's option. He's their player. Don't understand when you've got 4 strikers why you'd bring him back, but once you've brought him back, he's got to be involved. I mean, he's got to be involved. I don't see the logic of not being involved. If he could play, if he was good enough for Swindon League Two, he's certainly good enough for our bench at the very worst. I wouldn't start him. No, I think that's a big ask to suddenly just chuck him in there. But again, McKenna's been doing some great things with mixing it up. He may well do, but personally, I wouldn't start. Bring him on the bench, bring him off for the last 15 and let him charge around and cause mayhem, which I'm sure he's quite capable of doing.
There has to be an argument there, doesn't there, that he deserves a chance because none of the guys ahead of him are scoring. So he has at least been putting the ball in the net regularly this season. Give him a go. Like you say, I can't see him starting, but surely he has to be an option for off the bench maybe going forward. How about Connor Chaplin? I know you're a fan of Connor Chaplin, generally kind of playing as a 10 or wide, but worth giving him a little role as a striker?
Well, I don't think I'd like to see Connor Chaplin on his own as a striker with 3 behind him. I think that's a lot to ask. You get 2 great lumps of defenders that he's going to be up against. Chaplin's best sort of facet is coming from behind and coming through and scoring goals, or just being on the end of thing. To play him up on his own, I think would be no. I wouldn't like to see that. You've got enough. You've got Piggott. You've got Bon, you've got Norwood, you've even got Jacks. You've got 4 lads there who are quite capable of being strikers and having. I like Chaplin playing off him. Great, yeah, that's where he should play all day long. Of course, Wes Birds is scoring goals on wide as well. So no, I wouldn't want Chaplin on his own up front with whoever behind him and have none of those strikers. One of those strikers has got to step up to the plate and hopefully start banging the goals this last sort of third of the season.
Yeah, before we get on to the final conclusion there, Mark, let's talk about Joe Piggott, who I know you were a fan of earlier in the season. We've spoken about him quite a lot on the podcast and what you like about him. Came over having scored 20-plus goals for a Wimbledon side, let's be honest, nowhere near the level of talent that Town have, the players around him now. Really not done it. Macaulay Bon obviously started the season, kind of took his place. Piggott's only got 3 goals this season, 25 games. I say he's not scored in 18 games, hasn't scored since October. It's hard to make an argument for him just to come out of the cold, isn't it, and whack him as the starter, or is it?
Well, he keeps getting. He's been given 1 or 2 chances. Has he really taken them? Not really. I'm sad about this really because I really hope Joe Piggott was going to be the man, and he hasn't been yet. I still think it's a big career for him, Ipswich Town. By the way, don't get me wrong. This is not. I hear some fans sort of saying, "Well, just get him out of the club," as that's ridiculous. I think this guy's got a lot of talent. He has been given opportunities to start up on his own, but he hasn't taken them. And I think if you're going to, he needs to take the opportunities there, and they're not there, and he hasn't been taking them. I can't see McKenna suddenly starting him on his own. I just can't see it. So I think he's going to have to wait his time.
Okay.
Sadly, which is a shame because I'd love to see him given a chance because I think he's got it, Joe
Yeah.
Pigott. But it's not there at the moment.
We'll see. Right then, conclusion time, Mike. Let's decide how to solve this problem.
Okay.
Ipswich Town are away at Fleetwood this weekend. That starts a run of very important games in March. They've got 11 games left. They basically need to win pretty much all of them to have any hope of getting into the top 6. What do we do? How do we solve this problem? I'll tell you what I'll do. Starting at Fleetwood, I'll bring back the Bash Brothers. Game like that at Fleetwood, Norwood and Bonn coming up against their old mate Toto in Ciala. We know Toto, very strong, powerful defender, does have a rick in him though. Put him under pressure, get those two big, powerful strikers, put him under pressure at Fleetwood. That's what I'd do, but I don't really know that much about things. Certainly not as much as a coach of the year like yourself. So what would you do?
I'd start with Simpson. No, I wouldn't really. No, I wouldn't start with Simpson at all. What I do is, what would I do? Yeah, I'd go with Bonn. I think Bonn needs, if anyone probably needs a little run of games, it's probably him now. Imagine if he could finish the way he started. I mean, how great would that be? So I'd go with Bonn. Would I go with Norwood? Bonn and Pickett. Bonn and Pickett started okay at the start of the season. I don't quite know why it all fell apart. But go with Bonn and Pickett. If he's chucking up, mixing it all around, go with Bonn and Pickett. Play Bonn a little bit wider if you have to, because he's got probably a little bit more pace. Yeah, that's where I'd go.
Okay, Bonn and Pickett, Mike's saying. I'm saying Bonn and Norwood, the Bash Brothers. I think for me, I would like to see McKenna really decide that someone is going to be his striker now for the rest of the season. Put the faith in them and let's see what they can do, because Town need to start scoring goals and you start winning games. So let's see what happens. Thank you for watching. No doubt we'll be back soon to solve another Ipswich Town problem. Mike, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
We'll speak to you all next time.